And we are live.
All right, hello everyone. Welcome to this edition of the Jitsi Community Call. So this is going to be a quick one. Um, in the past couple of weeks, uh, we've been working on a number of ongoing things. Uh, Let me go through them briefly. We're adding the ability. I think I talked a little bit about that last time. We're adding the ability for people to add a user picker in Jitsi Meet so that they could call out to external sources of contact and get them to join the Jitsi Meet call that way. Um, I talked about it in the last call, so this is still work in progress. Uh, then uh, we're also Boris is still working on big conferences. That's progressing nicely. Iñaki has submitted a patch about using WebSockets instead of data channels, and I know Saul is on top of it. Maybe others as well. I didn't check that one out completely, but that's pretty cool too. Hopefully, we're going to have Edge soon. And uh, there's ongoing work on mobile. Lubo, so would you like to give an update on that?
Yeah, so has been working on the Jitsi Meet mobile SDK, and parallel with that, we've been working on stability as well, because we have issues there, like crashing devices or crashing, the app is crashing. But we've also worked on extending the JWT support with co or link overlays. It's known on the web, and that's pretty much the work that we did.
Right, thank you. We have also done an interesting experiment. As you know, GT Meet now does peer-to-peer for one-to-one conversations. Um, we're adding, so our stance on that has been that one-to-one conversations, if possible, should go directly, and if not possible, they should go through the bridge, and the bridge can play the role of a relay. We have recently decided to give turn servers a try, uh, and what I mean is every time a one-to-one conversation happens, and it cannot succeed to connect directly, rather than getting it to talk through the bridge, we connect it through a turn server. So that means that pretty much 100% of your conversations will not be going through the bridge. And the reason we decided to do that was that it was in order for us to get optimal performance for one-to-one through the bridge, we have to make sure that simulcast is disabled and there's no RTCP termination. And we still think that's, in theory, the best approach because it simplifies the architecture. There's one less server to run, but it is rather complicated to get that to work with the bridge. And we'd like to make sure that this happens one day, but in the meantime, it's just easier to also have a turn server running. And to be clear, if you don't have one, things are going to, difference isn't going to be particularly noticeable. Your calls are still going to go through the bridge for one-on-one, and that's going to be just fine in the majority of the cases. Uh, but if you want to get that to go that extra mile of for quality purposes, now you have a way of doing it. And uh, there's an ongoing reactification of the film strip, as uh, as I think we mentioned last time. Uh, as a reminder, ideally, the entire project is going to be reactified in the near future. The film strip is probably one of the most complicated components, so that's going to take a little bit longer. But at the end of it, we're going to get two major advantages out of all this. First of all, the film strip, the GT Meets components would be usable as such. It would be easy to manipulate them. We're probably going to open up the API externally as well, so that you can do that while embedding the app in a different site. And secondly, uh, it's going to allow us to an even higher convergence between mobile and desktop. Even more of the code shared between the different platforms is going to be the same eventually, and that means that hopefully, a lot of the stuff that we do for desktop will automatically go to mobile and vice versa. Not all of it, obviously, because it is React Native, there is native components involved, and there will have to be some specialization of certain parts of code, but hopefully the majority of it will be common code. Uh, and that's that's pretty much it. Oh, I think Brian also started work on adding simulcast for Firefox. Uh, so this is simple, but not really, because it might involve some changes on the bridge. But once we have that, it would give us better performance for simulcast for Firefox users, because we'd be able to give you adaptivity even for those users. And we're also thinking of adding an audio-only mode for Safari, so that no plugin is required there. So with Edge uh, also in the picture, that's pretty much going to give us 100% coverage of modern browsers. So that's nice. And then finally, we've been pushing news out slowly about the things that we've been adding in the recent future. Now that we have the new website, it's easier to do that, and it makes more sense to the way they show. So thank you for all of your retweets and Facebook shares and all that. So that's pretty much it. Would anyone like to add anything to the update?
One little thing, um, just in case someone listens to this a bit later, the reason why we would be doing it audio only in Safari is because it doesn't support VPA. It says it's WebRTC, but it's only H264,
Right.
and it
Yes.
doesn't do simulcast on it. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So actually, it even goes a little bit further, because we could potentially do H264, and George is spending some time making sure that whatever glitches there are in the bridge with H264 are fixed. Is George here?
Yeah,
No,
I'm here.
you're right. So George, how's that going, by the way?
It has been. I, am finishing up the turn server support, so today or tomorrow I will get back to it. I haven't really made any significant progress, so nothing really to share there.
Okay. But we should have that soon. And the problem is that, as Sue said, there's no simulcast support. But not the fact that there isn't any simulcast support in Safari is not the major deal here, because we have relatively low usage on Safari. The problem is that H264 on Chrome does not have any simulcast support, which means that basically we will be depriving ourselves from all the adaptivity and simulcast, from all the adaptivity features that simulcast gives us, if we were to switch to simulcast to H264. So we're going to wait a bit for, as they say, Muhammad to go to the mountain, or the mountain to go to Muhammad, or something. Uh, but either Apple has to add support for VP8, or Chrome has to add support for H264 simulcast before we have full video support on Safari. Thank you, Sue, for raising that. Any other additions? Okay, open mic.
I
What
have
would you people like to talk about?
just
Go ahead, Boris.
just one addition. Julian is working on implementing the whole send-side bandwidth estimation scheme as his GSOC project this year, and we decided that as the first major thing, we will bring the remote bitrate estimator from WebRTC, the one that is based on absolute send time. We'll bring this and use it in the bridge while still doing the receiver side thing. So he's going to be working on this in the next couple of weeks. And that's part of this implementing the whole send side scheme. This will be available in itself soon.
That's great. Yeah, we're going to push out a news entry about our current adaptivity, and you guys will see that one of the disadvantages works pretty well. And kudos to George because he did the major chunk of work there. But one of the disadvantages is that right now ramp up is rather slow. Now this isn't it's less of a problem in real world than it is um, in a test bed because in real world congestions are probably happening more slowly than or disappearing rather more slowly than when you turn off your link conditioner. But still, ramp up isn't particularly ramp up could use up some improvement. So hopefully the new bitrate estimator, bandwidth estimator would be able to help us with that. Yep, thanks Boris for the update. Still open mic. Okay. Well, it sounds like we are done for today. Going once, going twice, and done. Thank you all very much for joining the call, and see you again in 2 weeks. Bye bye.